Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to our NISA Doc series. This is our second segment, and this time we have Mr. Prasad with us. He has worked with us on a research also as the quality advisor. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, Nandita, and good afternoon, all the viewers.
Thank you so much, sir, for being here today. So today's segment, it's about learning during the pandemic. So that is why we have named it Under Year Lost, Learning During the Pandemic. As you all know that this pandemic is but one of the many recent events that highlight huge social and economic rifts in our society. But it is also something which highlight the importance of schools in bridging some of these divides. In light of these recent closures of schools and the challenges they pose for delivering educational programs to all the students, it is important to reflect why schools matter. And this is why Dr. Rao has come here to talk about the same thing, how learning has been during the pandemic and how to go about it. And since the schools are closed, so what are the suggestions we can give to the schools, teachers, and everybody in the education community to look after it? So, sir, back to you, sir.
Yeah, I think good afternoon, good evening to everyone, to Nandita and the team NISA. Welcome all to the educators around the country. Of course, we are all going through the crisis, as Nandita has rightly said. Once again, the schools are beginning to close state by state across the country. So the kids now are back at home, even in our state, Telangana, and some other states, the schools are really shut for some time. Hope that Omicron would, quickly give away, and then schools will reopen. So as far as this learning loss is concerned, there has been a research report done by NISA, as all of you know. This loss has been, consistent across the zones in the country. You call it southwest, northeast, northeast, even the rural, semi-urban and urban also, there's a little difference that actually you can make out. So learning loss has been consistent in languages, both mother tongue and English, in mathematics also. So the entire research report says or speaks of the urgency for the schools and the governments to come together, and the community also, to actually fix this learning loss. It's a very important thing why this learning loss has happened despite online connect, online teaching. It did happen, but why it happened? When children actually attended the online sessions, schools prepared for a very good pedagogically driven lessons through online, through technology. Some kids couldn't, connect to the lessons. Very unfortunate that happened for months and months together. But despite the online sessions that went, into teaching learning, there has been a grave concern with regard to the learning. So around 40 to 45% in mathematics, where children were found to be far below their grade level. Even in grade 3, 5, and 8, even in languages, children both in reading and writing, they were found to be really highly lacking. So this, throws a picture of big concern. And then, what has to be done right now? The picture is of a big concern, but then what is to be done back in the schools right now? Does the school have a kind of approach to look at these things? So today's session talks about or deals with or reflects on the finding out the learning gaps in the children, losses in the children, and the reasons for that, how to identify a child who has actually experienced severe or modest learning loss. First process is identification. Then the next process is how to actually bridge that learning loss. So these are the two things around which today's session is going to be reflecting upon. Yes, Nandita.
Yes, sir. Sure. That was a good explanation, sir. So, sir, now I think we can carry on with the presentation then.
Yeah. So welcome back again. Now, for example, in our own schools, if you just want to know where a child is lacking, each child is lacking. We don't have to go for again diagnostic tests. The kids have been coming to the schools, reporting to the schools, but then there has been a concern among the teachers, the administrators, and the parents about the extent of learning loss and the reasons thereof. So my appeal to all the school leaders and the teachers who actually deal with the kids in respective schools, maybe budget private schools or any kind of a school for that matter. If at all you have to find out the learning losses, here are few of the symptoms that you can just look at it. If your children are found to be very subdued in their responses in the class, outside the class, even at home, if the children are found to be subdued in their responses to questions, to a statement, to an expectation, to a cognitive expectation, then if you think that definitely there is some kind of a challenge in the child. Number two, if the child has a kind of aggression, if the child's behavior is reflection of an aggression, he is not able to do, because with regard to learning, there should also be an emotional sync. If that emotional sync is missing, probably the child may respond in a different way. So there could be a behavioral problem like an aggression in the child. Now, even the child may have a lack of interest. So all along when the child has been coming to school post online sessions for physical sessions, if you have seen the child not showing interest in the school activities, especially in learning, then definitely you need to take it as a case of learning gap in the child. And also, if the child's focus is shifting, attention span is not there with the child, it could be attributed some other reasons as well also. But since we have run classes during the pandemic, and the kids actually have not been able to learn the way they were supposed to learn, so then what happens is the child is not able to focus on the task at hand given by the teachers, by the school, or maybe at home. So this is one of the symptoms of shifting focus in a child where there is a severe gap in learning. In addition to that, you may also find out that the child may be quitting classrooms too often. He may be quitting classrooms. He doesn't want to sit in the class. And he checks away from school, from class, from school. And also phobia factor that must have really gone into the mind of the child, that I couldn't learn and I'm not able to catch up with the present lessons. So that actually gives in some children, some set of children, a kind of phobia factor, again, which will take them away from the current grade learning. Also, most of the times, these children who have developed gaps and losses in learning may be non-responsive also. They may not be responding to whatever type of questions or suggestions that you make or symbolically you make, they won't be responding because they feel they cannot. And most importantly, these children may be stressed because they are far away from the current grade standards. Far away from the current grade standards. That's one of the reasons why the students are driven to stress, tension, and anxiety, and ultimately, I think they may feel sad. So these are all some of the symptoms that you may come across in the children while trying to identify learning losses. This is number one. Number two, for example, if you take academics, Now there will be a lot of truancy, in the sense students want to be away from school, are very irregular, not willing to come to school because they feel that the schooling has become so tough because of the gaps. Already they may be having their own usual tendencies that may also come in handy for these gaps. But actually now we are dealing with only pandemic times issues. Now, the challenges that they are facing now in the academics, for example, in the formative assessment, whatever the teachers have conducted in the last maybe a month or so, and the beyond classroom observations, if you have found that the kids are consistently not faring well, not scoring well, not appropriately responding to situations and context in your school, then you may have to understand that this child definitely has developed that kind of learning gap or loss. A consistent consistent poor performance in the ongoing session is also one of the key parameters of fixing this learning loss. And also whenever they do some work, these children actually definitely may be doing a sketchy kind of work. They do not know what they are doing. It's very sketchy. Probably it may not make sense. So this is also one of the symptoms that can instruct us properly so as to fix the learning loss in the children. And finally, accountability issues. These children actually, they are not accountable to their learning. They don't take accountability factor. They don't want, because they feel they will not be able to. Inside of the heart, say they will not be able to. Therefore, the accountability issue also can make us fix this kind of a learning loss in a particular child, A or B or C. Now, again, coming to that, constant low performance in activities, in classes, in home tasks, in everything. And also, if you find your child not motivated, not only in learning, in various other activities, definitely and certainly you need to understand as a teacher, as a leader, as a parent, and as someone who is concerned with the education of the child, that the child has a problem. The child has a challenge which he may have developed during the COVID pandemic. Yes, Nandita?
Yes, sir. So, sir, yeah, these were you tried to explain how can anybody identify the learning losses if they are going through. And also you told us about the kind of issues which students go through at home, or let's say even when they were anywhere else. And I think it's very important for the parent or the teacher, when they're even teaching through online learning, it's very important that they should know these factors, that to know what their students are up to. So I think that's how they will going to address their learning, how it's going to be. So yeah, so I think we can move on to the next slide. And I think we also would like to know, so now we talked about how to identify the learning loss and what would happen if we do not check it, Also, sir, how is it possible that schools and teachers, they make this learning loss recovery pedagogically sensitive for the students and for themselves also?
Yeah. First, before we go into pedagogically sensitive classes, what would happen if the learning loss is not actually faced squarely right now by the schools and the teachers and the parents? We will go into that, but we'll fix it out as to what kind of a challenge that you can find out in a school. Then if these challenges are really identified, those were the symptoms of learning loss we were talking about, Nandita.
Yes, sir.
Now, if you want to fix whether the child has reading challenges, maybe in mother tongue, maybe in foreign language, whatever you call it. First, let's fix the challenge, and then how to improve these things through properly pedagogically sensitized classes, right?
Yes.
The teaching methods. Now, when the children start reading, you will understand if a child is skipping words while reading. If you're skipping words while reading, like 2-3 words are skipped, one word is skipped, then you find there is something wrong with the reading skill of the child. Number 2, if the child is consistently stuck at a word, not able to move forward, it is at a speed that is required, at least a reasonable speed, then that stuck observation is one kind of an indicator for learning loss. Number 2. Number 3, unpunctuated reading. If the children start reading not knowing where to stop, like considering the punctuation marks, so it just goes on just reading, stumbling to read without any understanding of the punctuation. This is one of the symptoms that the teachers can look forward to. Number 4, if you ask a child in your classroom to read, if the child is reading in inaudible voice, which you will not be able to listen to that, is maybe kind of a voice that is not audible at all. Why does that happen? That happens maybe perhaps because the child is not able to read, therefore he is trying to make some kind of reading so that the teacher and others should not be able to listen to that. It's all about, these are all psychological things, some of them. And then scramble for letters to make words. The children also read in a word letters. They try to read the letter and try to make a word to pronounce. There also that scramble sometimes is so big that the child will not be able to make a word. This is one set. Another set is, so when they're reading, kids are muttering. They mutter, a kind of muttering. A child who can read well, they opens the book, starts reading beautifully.
Yes, sir.
He mutters. Right, Nandra, you must have shifting attention. So quickly, the child's attention is getting shifted because he is not able to focus on the word and then get the pronunciation, then start reading. So this shifting attention also, though it could be related to other factors, this factor may also work in this context.
Yes, sir.
To fix the reading challenge. Also, there is a difficulty in reading small script. These students may not read the script when it is very small, very small. That's another point that the teachers need to look at that. And unable to read their own writing, Nandita, they will not be able to read their own writing. They write something, they scribble something, even that they will not be able to read. So that is another point which we can look forward to in students having the reading challenges and no comprehensibility. And when such kind of teachers read in in this types of ways, they may not be able to comprehend or understand what they are trying to read. So that is also one of the reasons.
Yes, sir. I mean, these things, I'm sorry to interrupt, sir, but yeah, I mean, I myself have gone through such things when I was a kid. So when you feel really, let's say you barely have confidence and you do not understand what's going around you, so you tend to go through these problems, where you stutter and, you scramble words and you're unable to even read your own language. That happens a lot. Yes, sir.
Very true, very true. Because the teachers normally look at a few things, but these are also very important things along with the list of the things that they really look at. And finally, as far as the reading challenges are concerned, and when others read, they won't be able to listen properly. Somebody else reads, they won't be able to listen and understand, listen and follow that, the phonemic rules and other things. That's number one. And then they also have got, phobia-led reading. Whenever they read with fear. That kind of a fear psychosis is there, that they may go wrong, they may not be able to read well. So this kind of mental attitude also sometimes is found among the readers who have got reading challenges. Plus, and again here, misplaced adults task. Then actually, what do adults, parents and teachers expect such children to do that? Normally, we force them to read. Come on, read. Come on, read. this does not work with a student who actually has a challenges in reading. So the adults need to think that that there are other right ways, earnest ways of making a student read, but not be persistent with the system that they are operating to make them read. That's a very important dimension to the adults' task of making the kids read, develop that kind of a reading thing. This is about reading challenges.
Yes, sir.
And when it comes to writing challenges, how to fix a writing challenge? Now, for example, if the students start writing, they'll be giving a lot of space between the letters in a word, and they won't leave space between two words. So this is one type of mistake that the kids do. The pen pencil grip also shows their writing skill, ability, or capability. And number three, because they're not conditioned to proper pronunciation, proper listening, so they often make errors while making a written presentation also.
Yes, sir.
Of course, as you said, shifting attention also is there. They will not be able to be actually concentrating on the writing because they've got the paucity of writing skills. Then the huge spell errors they make. Definitely, these kids do a lot of spell errors, and they, the space with which they really write is a very slow and kind of very slow writing. And they won't even check how they've written, what they've written, and then they won't even check for correction. They won't even, because now one of the tasks of the child is to check what he has written, to check what he has understood, to check what he has read. So that kind of self-check is not done by those people who have such problems and unable to read one's own writing. When he writes or she writes something, that child is not able to read the same stuff maybe after some time. This is one of the big challenges that one of the biggest challenges that we normally see across. Yes. And finally, even the kids have copying challenges. Even seeing and writing also, there is a problem for such kind of children. Even it has gone down to that kind of extent of learning loss during the pandemic. Yes. In addition to whatever the learning losses they already had pre-pandemic. So that and this added together, that the situation has really become very, very grave.
Yes, sir.
Number two. Yeah. Shall we move forward then?
Yes, sir. So I have a question. So just now you just told us, how to identify these learning loss gaps among students. So you just said that, they'd be adapted to certain kind of behavior. Any parent or any teacher would be able to talk about it, right? So, sir, but right now, let's say that we are at home and not just students, even parents who are working, it's impossible for them to look after their children, what are they learning or writing. Or let's say, even when you talked about, they are actually making huge spelling errors also while writing. So I think this is why we actually keep talking about how to, talk more about opening schools, because that's when teachers would be able to focus on students and, they can anyhow just make sure that what should be done to recover the learning loss, basically, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, sir, also, so the next question is, so right now we just talked about how, in what way it can go. You just told us the categories in reading, writing, and
also a couple of understanding, a couple of things are there, then we'll go into pedagogical sense.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Exactly, sir. So yeah, I think so we can carry on. Yes.
So, for example, now any reading or writing without understanding, I think that is not education. So now the children who have got fundamentally, reading and writing challenges, they definitely have severe understanding challenges. And this could be attributed to the following things. For example, when the kids are reading superficially and writing superficially, they don't know why they're writing, they don't know why they're reading. So there's no purpose. And if the purpose is not to understand, then the understanding is lost. So reading is not done properly, understanding is not made, then that becomes a bigger concern. This is number one. Number two, schools normally, teachers in schools go for rote learning system. Students are asked to write in the examination what they have learned at home, what the teachers have given, what they learned at home. This is one of the reasons why understanding is at the lowest level. When the student falls onto rote learning method, the understanding is the last thing that will happen. So to make understanding better of the concept of an activity, of anything that the child does, it's important that the child should be away from rote learning, except in few select cases. Otherwise, everything should be carried only through understanding, understanding, and understanding.
Yes, sir.
Now, most importantly, why understanding? What is the difference between knowledge and understanding? Now, you see, stress on when you go stress on knowledge and facts, that is not understanding. But schools do stress on knowledge and facts. They're just knowledge points, that's all. Understanding is something which you are able to apply, which you are able to analyze, which you are able to develop into skill as such. That is called understanding. That's called understanding. So when a child actually sees how, what you call, how mother, prepares a food, and then if the child is able to calculate find out the nutrition or the value of the food, what are the ingredients used in the food, or maybe 5th, 5th grade, 6th grade child, if the child is able to say scale it up and then say that, so my mother is giving me balanced diet, vitamins, the nutrients, the proteins, the carbs, etc., etc. So that is called understanding. But if you simply say my mother cooks so and so, gives so and so food, this so and so, I eat so and so, so that is called just simple knowledge, simple fact. So the education should move beyond the knowledge and facts into understanding element. And this is second best thing. Once you go into that, then you go into further lanes and bylanes. So this is number 2. And those children who have understanding challenges because of various reasons. Number 1, the poverty of vocabulary. They are not able to read and understand the words. When others speak, they are not able to listen to such words, because they don't have words, proper vocabulary or jargon that is used in the textbooks. Because of these 2 reasons, understanding doesn't take place. And also, most importantly, there are other things, the processes of when you talked about pedagogy, which will come a little later. So this is one of the reasons. And number 2, when it is a memory driven activity or home task, normally we give to children, you do this, you learn this and come. This kind of an activity, home task, we give it. In that, there is nothing except repeating. If an LKG child is given, is asked to write 20, TWENT, write 20, 10 times, 15 times, 20 times, it is ridiculous. It doesn't serve any purpose of learning. It's just a knowledge, it's just a fact, it's just a number, it's just a symbol, that's all, it's just a symbol. But symbol is not understanding. So how do you relate the symbol to an object is understanding. If you don't relate that to an object, it doesn't come under understanding criteria at all. This is number 2. So that home task and that is actually memory driven. Such kind of home tasks should not be given mostly. There could be few things that can be given. Then when a child has something to question or some doubt, normally what adults do, teachers and parents, they give quick response, very quick response. Oh, this is the question, no, this is the answer. So that kills the spirit of inquiry of the child.
Yes.
So when a question is asked, please do not give any kind of immediate ready-made answer or solution. So the quick adult responses can be there, but in terms of further questioning, or you think like that, you work like that, you ask another question like this. So that kind of extension will make the children think, and start understanding. That's one thing. And they don't understand because of the complexity of the content also. Sometimes those children who are not so good at reading and writing, they're not able to understand because of its complexity. The complexity of the content, the complexity of the concept, whatever it is. That's one thing. And then, most importantly, the schools normally rely on form. Form is, about language. Not that language is very important. I'm not saying that language is not important. But when you are reading a subject, trying to understand a subject, math, science, social, anything, music, dance, literature, everything, anything for that matter, if you insist on the child to write correctly without any mistake, that mistake related to a form of a sentence, or a formation of a word, or a structure, or syntactically it is correct, it should be correct. There's no doubt about that. But most importantly, the priority must be given for the substance, the understand. What is the understand? That is the substance that should have the cake. Of course, once you understood that, then you require language. But now the situation is put the language first, substance next. That has become a major problem now. So that needs to be changed. Children need to understand the substance of the whole lesson or the concept, then trying to put it into proper language form. This is with regard to understanding. And the last one is this is with regard to mathematics.
Yes, sir. So I think you got a very interesting point when you talked about the poverty of a language, of a vocabulary, basically, which students go through. Sometimes I think it happens that I think we need to understand that not every child or everybody can speak fluent English or any language, because I think that a lot depends on the kind of school they are studying in or the kind of teachers they have. Or let's just say, even if their parents are able to speak English, that is even the biggest factor. So I think in our research, we saw that not in the southern side, but extremely on the northern side, we saw that a lot of students who are studying in rural areas, they are going through this reading challenge problem, whether they can barely read English languages, like form sentences, because they do have this thing called poverty of vocabulary. So it's an interesting point, exactly so.
Right. So now moving on, now for example, in the classes, lower classes, even higher classes, for example, if we see, if the child is not able to have number object association, symbol object association, picture object, so if that association is missing, then there could be mathematical challenge in the child. There could be that kind of. So then again, normally we in the classes, we introduce number in the form of a form, like the number is 9, for example. If we introduce 9 without making any sense to the child, I think that kind of introduction is not very scientific. Pedagogically, it's a very correct way of doing it. So how do you make associations? Unless and until associations are made, then no number should be introduced. Like no letter should be introduced unless and until there are like kind of associations with a picture, with a word, with a sound, through story, through rhyme, through song, through anything for that matter. So this number association, that form with association with objective, that's a very, very, very important thing. Then again, so how is this number very relevant to your life? Unless and until you make use of them, those numbers in their life's context, the children will not be able to understand them properly. So how do you, for example, the kids know LKG or UKG child has to do something with the distribution of chocolates, distribution of marbles, or anything for that matter. So you can play a beautiful mathematical game with all those objects. So that's very important. So relation to life is important. And then, so these children have difficulty in understanding because they take a number as a symbol and then learn. This is one thing. So when you go to higher classes, even a little bit, so the concepts are not understood. The reason is they are difficult to comprehend statement sums. That is a challenge. Statement sum is a challenge because their language is not so good. Sometimes they may be good with numbers and mathematics, but because of their challenge with the English language or whatever language they are medium they are going studying, so that actually may not really help them do math well. This is number 2.
Yes.
Also procedural incongruence is important. when the children actually, teachers, you need not actually look at only the solution part of it. How the child is actually going step by step, how is using the logic. Is it logically sensible? Is there any reasoning? Is the child able to make those kind of things when he is trying to attempt a solution to a mathematical challenge? So the procedural incongruencies are also very important. Then again, in most of the schools, what happens? Mechanical drilling will happen. Teacher will teach some concept related sum on the board and give 4 or 5 sums, 3 in the class, 5 at homework. So this is a normal pattern that happens in most of the schools. I don't say all the schools, but then here lies the challenge. Because the kid has not understood the concept, the child is running into a kind of a problem to solve the sums given as a home task or in the class. So the time that needs to be spent for the children, or with those statement sums to be done in the class, after exploring the concept through various activities, then I think it's definitely possible for the children to start understanding mathematics. So finally, mechanical drilling of sums that will make, and lack of practice also. Mathematics does require practice, be it first standard, fifth standard, or eighth standard. And I think I will tell you only one caveat. Any practice without understanding the concept will not give much of mathematical insights for the child. So any practice should happen only after sufficient, what you call exposure to the concept through activities. So these are some of the, this is how you can identify in your schools, how the children, are struggling. Now, you talked about 2 questions. That is, how can we run pedagogically sensitive classes, right? And the other part of the question was?
So the first part is this only, that how can schools and teachers, they can make the learning loss recovery pedagogically sensitive, and also if they're making it like that. So generally we see that normally our bridge courses which schools are thinking to introduce. So I think question could be, what is the most suited structure any school should come up with for the bridge courses?
Yeah, now that online classes are going to be a reality for some more time across the country, I think now people talk about bridge courses.
Yes, sir.
My experience, when I looked at the bridge courses, they're very, very draggy. Nandita, those bridge courses are very draggy, and then the child is not able to adapt to the bridge course.
Yes, sir.
Because the bridge course is aimed at improving the learning loss in the kids or learning gaps in the kids.
Yes, sir.
But the bridge courses are designed in such a way that they finally turn out to be very monotonous. Already the child goes through 8 hours of schoolwork, 2-3 hours of homework, 2 hours of homework, and then another 1.5 hours of bridge courses or 2 hours of bridge courses, whatever you call it, and that too on insipid lines. So those bridge courses are not delivering any kind of advantage to the student who actually requires some kind of support. So bridge course is definitely, provided you design it in a proper way. This is number 1. Number 2, this online classes, as far as that is concerned, we all need to think whether online classes can be very effectively organized. Why, even in our data, kids were not sitting in the online classes.
Yeah, they were barely attending it, yes.
They were withdrawing, they were joining and withdrawing in between. Because one of the reasons was that though teachers really worked very hard, learned technology, how to use features of technology, and how to actually impart, this teaching learning through the tool of technology. But mostly students have found that learning not so, not so interesting for that matter. Not so interesting for that matter. So on and off they were sitting. So that also was leading to learning loss. In addition to pre-pandemic learning losses, pandemic learning losses, this kind of a thing also, that like online classes not being done properly. So there is if we need to ask a question ourselves, what was the pedagogy element in my online instruction? If it is only instruction, if we were talking about instruction, it is not instruction actually. It is nowadays it is called construction, constructing the knowledge. The child needs to construct the knowledge. If the child cannot construct knowledge, he cannot always be fed on instructions. Instructions are important. There is no doubt about that. Teachers' guidelines are important. Facilitation is important. But how does a child, construct knowledge, pursue knowledge, pursue activities, pursue a project, and learn those things by himself through discovery, through understanding? And in such a scenario, the child really will be able to advance and overcome any kind of a thing. So I feel that these classes must be improved to an extent where in a class, in an online classroom, the child should be able to, talk about the work that he has done. There's a disturbance is coming up.
Yes, sir.
In the class, the child should be able to talk about or express or communicate or showcase what the child has done at home following the previous day's class, where the child has taken home an important statement or a question which she has explored, and when she has explored, her understanding can be written on a chart in a symbolic way, in a pictorial way, whatever it is. The child may write a script, whatever it is, then come to the class, present that understanding in the class. I think that will really amaze the child. Even other children, when he is presenting, will be able to keenly listen to the friend's presentation. So everyone does get a turn to present his work. First thing is, you develop a class, initial class through a lead question or a lead problem statement. Then there could be brainstorming around for some time. Let the child go back to the 23 hours is in the hands of a child. So let the child explore that concept through various activities. You may even suggest an activity, and the child, as he does the activity, will start observing and noting down the points of observation, then make a case for himself. Then whatever his understanding is there, he will come back to the class, to the online class the following day, and then he will get a chance from the teacher to make a presentation, maybe in 2 minutes or 3 minutes time. So probably if this kind of role reversal by the child in the online learning will make learning highly impactful, completely differentiated. Totally.
Yes, sir. Yeah, it's actually, yeah. I mean, for once we have to give them the lead so that they finally have the role to teach as well and to learn as well, of course. And so you made a very good point that, we need to focus on activity-based learning as well as the project-based learning here, because that's how we're gonna go forward with. So right now we were talking about the bridge courses. So normally we see that, a lot of schools, they might introduce a very prolonged course, let's just say, to bridge these gaps. So what do you think could be the advantages and disadvantages of the long bridge courses? And what do you think could be the, let's say, the good duration for the student to overcome all these gaps?
Great. So normally, what happens is, so before we go into the bridge course kind of a thing, just I quickly go through this slide. It's very important slide.
Yes.
My request to all the educators, leaders, parents, and the teachers is not to brand a child that he has got learning poverty. Please do not brand the child that you have got learning gaps and learning poverty. That is only for the teacher to understand and then take necessary corrective measures and steps. Number one. Number two, when you are going for a bridge course, you cannot say that because you don't have this knowledge, you are in this course. No, but that is not the way to start a bridge course. Bridge course, you should know what you are going to learn. The child should know, oh, I'm going to learn this. and the child is not branded. Therefore, his confidence levels have not really been beaten down. His confidence levels are intact. For learning, all of us should remember that with lower confidence levels, learning can not be developed or enhanced. So first, teacher and the school and the parent need to maintain that kind of motivation in the child, number one. Number two, you need to identify, now this is the program. In this program, at the end of the program, this is what you're going to achieve. Are you okay? Are you on the same page with me? Shall we work together? Shall we work together? Simply, you can't say that you go to the class and say that, come on, these children read. List will go from the principal. These are the 5 children. Come on, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 are read. Come on, you come to the principal or the teacher. From tomorrow, you have classes. Let your parent come and pick up at so and so time. So that will not really work. That is highly immethodical. So this is point number 2. Point number 3, you can have dedicated awards. Just we'll talk about what are the dedicated awards. And it should be short and interesting. See, bridge courses cannot be lifelong, 6 months long, 1 year long. No, it cannot be like that, because sustenance of interest will be lost. Interest will be lost. Longer periods of bridge courses aimlessly carried out, repetitively carried out, will end up making children further poor, or in their own studies. So I think I don't suggest it that way. So make them more interesting, and let the child also take the ownership.
Yes, sir.
Let the child take the ownership of why he is there in the class. Why? Because what is the objective that he is going to really work towards or work for. Let him know. Let him be conscious and aware of that. And then third point is, the flow in a bridge course is very important thing. Flow. It cannot be like, no, you cannot go in a very slow, lethargic manner, thinking that these children are very, they have got a lot of learning gaps and losses. Therefore, I cannot run. No, it is not that way. You can have a system designed in such a way that the flow is maintained. Because for any human brain, if the flow is breaking, learning will be breaking.
Yes.
So the flow is important. And most importantly, we can think of level-based sessions. Now, for example, to all the educators, what is this level-based? You can have, for example, an 8th standard child is lacking basics. So basics you can plan only for 4 to 5 days. They should be withdrawn from the classes. They should not sit in the regular class. After identifying the child through all the due process which we discussed, or with any other points that they can apply to a context, then they should start that level-based sessions. Now, for basics, now for example, 9th standard children require basics. Basics they learn very fast. So it is a complete day-long program with full of activities. Full of activities where children start learning very quickly, very, very, very quickly. They don't wait for that. So it has got to be a flow. When it has got to be a flow, it should be now start with basics, then go to the next level, go to the pre-class level, finally bring them to the grade level. All this can be done provided there is a proper planning with a flow, not extended days and months and weeks, and it should be a short, crypt, and very focused. This is the one. And then finally, in those sessions, you can take the support of the peer group support is how they can come to rescue that. We can discuss about this a little later. If there are questions, we can send the answers also, how to take peer support. And also in between, maybe suppose you have a 1-week program for reading, writing, and understanding, just 1 week only. Let's say 2-day complete reading, all reading problems are done. 2-day writing, key writing challenges are over, and 2-day understanding. Let's say you do that way. So in 6 days' time, there will be a huge and paradigm shift. Provided the flow is there, the purpose is there, the process is that kind of process that you actually design. So, and the teacher should be able to check in between after a day or two, what is the level of the child now? What is the level? I can even suggest my friends to have a video, to have a video, caught in the video reading of a child in a video before starting of the program. After 2 days, you can again do that with the same child. You will know the difference. And that you show to the child, oh, this is what you were doing just 2 days ago, yesterday. Now we are doing, see, so much of improvement is there. So
Yes.
that gives them a lot of confidence. So that those kind of assessment checkpoints, you can think about that. And whatever the resources are there, those resources now will have to be aligned to this 6-day or 8-day, highly focused, highly flowing, full-fledged classes to recover learning loss. Yes, Nandita?
Yes, sir. Um, yes, sir. That's the right point. You said that we need to make learning very inclusive, and maybe I think that if they try to give group projects, allow students to work together, even if they are sitting online, they can always have peer-to-peer learning and peer-to-peer talking. So they can, of course, do that. But also, so now that we are seeing that that all of us are now sitting online, like even we are sitting online now. We are working from home now, and schools were closed long time back. So, sir, how to make sure that our learning is, it has quality, even if it's coming from home. So, and we are not in schools anymore. Students are not going to schools anytime soon, I think so, because given to the fact that Omicron cases are very much high right now. So I don't think schools will be opening very soon. So how would parents or teachers would make sure that their children or student, they're learning and it has quality right now, and this doesn't lead to more learning gaps? How to make sure of this?
This learning gaps, as far as online education is concerned, that definitely it will be, there's no doubt about that. And the teachers can have a separate sessions, because within the same session, it's definitely not possible. There are so many interesting reading techniques. So many interesting reading techniques. Which actually allow the kid to really take to reading and motivated to read a particular content or anything.
Yes.
So those techniques are important. The processes are important. So if you can have a special class, maybe today 2-3 classes, tomorrow 2-3 days online, then you have those systems. For example, there are kind of 10 to 12 kinds of reading that is there to develop reading. We are talking about conducting a research on reading survey, right? So how to develop reading? You can definitely have those types of reading that can be built into online classroom also.
Yes.
So that becomes easy for the child to really do that. So when we do that research on that, we'll come back to that. So as we go into this, how to move forward? Now, when you go for this bridge courses, you can go into basic level, pre-grade level, grade level readiness. Suppose the child is in 8th grade, the child lacks basic level. Let the child go to the basic level for 2 or 3, 4 days only. The entire basic is designed, pursued relentlessly with full flow of child's participation. Then from that, he is shifted to pre-grade level. Again, not the same class where he's studying, to the pre-grade level. In the pre-grade level, you take another 2 days or 3 days. When you design that, for another 3 or 4 days. And all these days, he is away from the other types of homework or regular classes. The child should be away from that. If you go on doing this kind of learning loss for 6 months to 1 year, I don't think the child will ever be able to come back to this normal standards.
Definitely so.
There, he should move to the grade level readiness. So where currently is in 5th grade, he lacks fundamentals. You cover that in 2-3 days. Then grade level, pre-grade 1 or 2 grades pre, 4th and 3rd, you complete in 2 or 3 days time. It is definitely possible, provided how you design your program and how the flow is maintained, and finally, and how your assessment checkpoints are really helping the child. Finally, grade level readiness, you drop them there. I think it is definitely possible within 1 week to improve reading, to improve writing, to improve understanding, to a larger extent to improve in mathematics, unless and otherwise the child has been completely kept away from mathematics till he came to 7th or 8th grade. In such cases, it takes longer time. Point number one.
Yes, sir.
Point number two, so that's what I am suggesting. Dedicated work or fortnight is suggestible, not in the regular classes, not after the school hours. So dedicated week, the school should design a dedicated week or fortnight for all such children. In a school of 500, if there are 100 children or 150 children that are found to be there, so if they first, for example, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all of them are missing basics, they will be formed into one basic class. All the basics will be done. From the basics, they will be shifted to the other one. Like that, there are 2 or 3 types of classes happening in mother tongue, in English and mathematics, right? So depending on the child requires only mother tongue, he will go to mother tongue. He requires math, he will go into math. He requires English, he will go into English. He requires all the 3. Probably there may be a little bit of a stretched program for the children, those who have got challenge, all the 3. This is number 2. And most importantly, please do not call it bridge course. Let the child be mentally ready, psychologically, emotionally. Oh, these are my new learning moments. I'm going to enjoy. I'm going to learn. Learning is fun for me. Let me take a plunge into this. This kind of sensation you need to create in the child before you draw them for any kind of upliftment classes.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I think that was very beautifully put, because they are anyhow children in the end of the day, and we need to make them believe that, you know, they can anyhow, they still have time to catch up on all the things they have lost. So yeah, it's very important. And this is a good idea that even if we come out with the bridge courses, we should name them. Let's say you've actually told us it's called My Learning Moments. So yeah,
new learning moments. Yes.
yeah, My New Learning Moments. Yes, sir.
If you again go for old learning, they don't like to do old learning, right?
Yeah, sure. I think learning has become very new now that we have come online anyhow. So yes, thank you so much, sir. So we saw that you try to explain everything in this PPT and with the presentation, how to address learning loss and what is it, and how students and teachers or even parents can make sure, even if their children, they are going through some difficult time with learning, and how to recognize that, how to identify that learning loss which they're going through, and also how to overcome that. So you try to put everything in one PPT. That was phenomenal. So thank you so much. And so in the end, I would only like to say right now, I'm just reminded of this quote. If not many people would have read it, but it's called The Pedagogy of the Oppressed, is by Paulo Freire. So he says that, you know, there is no such thing as neutral education. Education either functions as an instrument to bring about conformity or freedom. So right now, I think we should really focus on the kind of learning which actually, you know, brings our students to the forefront, so that they are really learning and not just doing the rote learning, which you mentioned. So thank you so much for being here.
Any questions are there? We can, I think they can,
yeah,
we can
sure,
take the question little later. We can, we can respond to them, whatever the questions are there.
Sure. And also I would like to tell you, everybody, that we did a report also on the same thing, learning loss, and Dr. Rao was with us throughout that report making. And so to find the report, you can always check the comment section, and there's a link, and click on that link, you can find a report. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone.